Phones on so everyone can hear. Hello everybody. Okie dokie. We just thought we'd come on a little bit earlier on in the afternoon, just to make sure that everybody can hear us. If you could just give us a thumbs up to say that you can hear me and Louise as well.
Hello everybody, thank you for joining us.
So can everybody hear us? Just pop a little thumbs up and say, yeah, we can hear you, we can see you both loud and clear. Thank you, Amco, thank you so much indeed. Am I sounding better than last week, perhaps? Can someone just come on and just say, because we had a bit of a problem last week, didn't we? Thumbs up, cool, excellent, everybody's coming on today. I'm absolutely cooking up here today. I haven't got my other shirt on.
It's quite warm, isn't it?
It's a very warm day today, very warm. Cool, everybody coming on, super duper duper. Both of you are good. Yeah, we are good. All right, so yeah, so sorry we're not in the summer house today. The idea was we would be in the summer house today because we just wanted, well, I wanted to be in the summer house, and we were going to be answering questions to do with things like social media and branding and so forth. We haven't forgotten about it at all, but what we're going to be doing, we're going to be doing that again. And the reason being is that we got in late last night. We went visiting family, and we got in late last night, and we haven't had a chance to really sort of prepare it, have we, at all? So you've had a good week, Louise?
Yes, it's been rather good, yeah, busy.
So I would like to, first of all, introduce this young lady to the new member of the team. Louise now is full-time with us, absolutely wonderful, and I can't wish for a better person to work alongside.
You say that now.
I say
it's my first day.
It's Louise's first day, and it's going to be a bit longer than usual. But yeah, it's been, and I did snap at you this morning, and I do apologise. I didn't mean to snap at you. I'm sorry. It's your first day. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's going to be Monday. I do apologise. I apologise on the air, and I didn't mean to snap, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. Forgive you.
So it's going to be, our question and answers are going to be now on Mondays instead of Wednesdays because of staff changes and so forth. So it's going to be Mondays at 4 o'clock. Yeah, Amco has asked, how have you liked your first day?
The boss shouted at me, Amco.
No, I didn't shout at you. Don't start. I didn't shout.
One of the perils of working with your husband.
I was getting stressed. The computer was just so.
I just wished I knew who I could report the sexual harassment to as well.
The sexual, do you mind? The sexual harassment, we won't go into that. Oh dear. So not switch when she, I'm sorry, okay. All right then, so it's going to be on Mondays now at 4 p.m. instead of the usual, what it used to be, Wednesdays. So not much has gone on since Wednesday. I haven't done any recording to do with the films that Louise very kindly wrote out for me. So not a lot has gone on behind the scenes, is it?
Not
at
really,
the moment? No, not at all. So what we've done, we've started to get all the questions regarding branding and promotion and so forth, and we're going to do that again next week. Whether it'll be here in the studio here or whether it'll be at home in our little summer house will be another matter. We're not quite sure yet. Yeah, so going back to this working with your wife, working wife working with your husband, what the plan of action is that Louise is not going to be working sort of with me, but in another part of the building for a couple of days. So, because the first thing that Louise actually said to me was, I don't want to work with you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not
all the time.
Well, not all the time, but I don't want to work with you, 5 days a week and then having to go home and be with me again. That's just too much. So the idea is that Louise is going to be working another part of the building for part of the week. I have a day, another part of the building editing, and then we're just going to be working together. Is it Thursday, Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah, just Thursday, Friday, really, isn't it? So it's only going to be 2 days, and plus the hour we do this as well. So it's not too bad. You can put up with me, can't you? Yeah, just a little bit.
So.
Just a little bit. So that's the whole idea of what we're going to be doing. All right then, so let us start, shall we? It is 1 minute to 4, and what we're going to be doing, Louise is going to be going through the chat. So welcome to new people who are coming on here for the first time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a question and answer. What we will be doing is going through the chat, going through the questions in order they come in. So if you happen to pop on like a 10 to 5, it's doubtful whether you're going to get your questions answered, but the earlier you come on, the earlier you get your questions in the chat box, the more chance that Louise is going to be able to ask me them. So the earlier the better. The early worm catches the bird. No, it doesn't. The
other way around.
The early bird catches the worm.
Mm.
You ain't seen the worms in my garden, have you? They're massive. So welcome to today's question and answer, being the 3rd of August, being Monday. A little bit different. I do apologise for those who couldn't make it on the Wednesday, who are watching the replay of this. But it's going to be Mondays at 4 p.m. for now. So Louise, do we have our first question, please?
Yes, we do. Dapper Dan, whether or not you need to harden 925 silver rings after soldering to resist scratching.
Not really. I've never hardened silver rings before. You've no real need to. When you come to perhaps polish up the piece, it sort of gets slightly work hardened, I'd say, from that. People say if you put it through the barrel polisher, some people will say that barrel polisher hardens the metal as well. The jury's out on that. Some people say it does, some people say it doesn't. But no, there is no need to harden it. And I think silver will just take on a really nice patina as the years go on, and there's no need to harden it at all. I know you can harden it by putting it into a kiln, but I think you're going to have a lot more problems by doing that to harden it. So no, I would just simply leave it as it is, because as you work with it, it sort of work hardens itself. So no, I wouldn't. There we go. Next question, please, Louise.
Okay. Julie is asking, if selling a piece of silver jewellery which is gold plated, do you still get the silver stamped? And if so, do you do it before the plating process is done?
So, Julie, you don't say whether you're in the UK or abroad. Here in the UK, you can gold plate silver. I think what I would do, if you say you're in the UK, it doesn't matter, because even if you gold plate it, the assay office, if it's over 7 grams, so 6.81 grams, 7.81 grams, something like that, you actually legally have to get the items hallmarked. A lot of times now they will just simply use a gun. In the old days they used to scrape off some of the silver to test it. Obviously you don't want to go plating the piece at that particular stage, because you used to have to repolish the piece. So what I would do, I think, is nowadays is if it's under the legal limit, you can stamp it 925 and then you can plate it. Plating will be the last thing you'd really want to do. If the assay office is going to stamp it, send it to the assay office, let them do all their dirty deeds on it, whether it be laser marking or actual punch marking, and if they have to do any testing on it, and then you can gold plate it afterwards. But for me, I think gold plating would be the last process you do after you've even set a stone, but careful, because some stones don't like being put in a plating solution. But yeah, gold plating would be the last thing that you do. Hello Hans, good to see you. Thank you very much for popping on, really do appreciate it. Next question please, Louise.
Okay, Jeanette is planning on Delft clay casting a ring with an intricate texture. Can I send the sprue to the centre of the ring instead of the outside, and how would I do that?
Yes, you can. Now, don't forget, if you have a ring that has texture, you've got to be careful, because don't forget the ring has to be pushed down into the Delft clay, and then obviously it has to be removed. So if you have the outside of the ring, so this is looking down on top of the ring, okay, so the ring is like that. Okay, so that's the ring. This is looking down on it. If you have any texture that comes like this, okay, and then you push it into the Delft clay is going to form into these edges, and when you pull the ring out, you know, there's that, you push the ring in. Can you all see this now before I do this? So say this is the ring and you have textures and there's undercuts. and you want to remove the ring out of the delft clay, it's not going to work. So a texture on the outside of a band that runs, for argument's sake, say you had a bit of a V groove running like this. If that makes sense. You've got like a V groove running down through the center of a band. You cannot cast that with delft clay because you push it into the sand will fill the groove, you remove it and it'll break the mold. So you can't do a texture that way. If it has a very light, gentle texture, it's got to be like a vertical texture. But that aside, if you want to then put your ring and you have a master and you have the ring that is this sort of shape, yes, you can bring the sprue down and out to fill these areas here. That's not very terrible, Andrew. Yes, you can have the sprue that runs out. So what you would simply do, it's really awkward to try and describe this actually, just purely drawing this. You would then have your, if I can draw it by here, so this is your mold and this is the void in your, yeah, and you've got the other one. Oh heck, how am I drawing this? Is that right? No, it's coming straight across, isn't it? I mean, I can't remember how to do this. Anyway, so there's the ring. This is the void inside the rings. You make the sprue hole through the center, you widen it to pour in, and then what you would do is perhaps bring a nail to join the sprue. Hard to describe. In fact, write it down for Louise. Let me do a film on how to do sprue in.
My diary.
You haven't got your diary?
No,
oh no.
My diary, it's
I have to use a little
downstairs.
one. Yeah. I can see it in my head, but it's really difficult for me to quickly draw this. But yeah, you would have the whole, yeah. I'll do a film. That's the best thing. But yes, you can. Sprue out to the void. Yeah, as you've got it. But texture, if you try and cast delft clay a texture, I don't think it's going to work. You're better off casting a plain ring and then texturing it afterwards. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So I apologize for that. But yeah, I'll do a film, or I'll even do some drawings, something like that, and I'll put it on perhaps for next week on the best way to do that. So I apologize, I've just wasted 5 minutes. All right, Louise, next question, please.
Okay, Antonia has a soldering question. My sterling silver solder turns a much darker colour than the sterling silver on my ring. How to fix this?
Sometimes it's due to a solder being of a lower quality, a lower melting point. So perhaps something like an extra easy or an easy solder has less silver in it and other alloys. So the color of the solder does not match silver. So obviously you want to get the most content silver in silver solder, and that happens to be, apart from enameling, that happens to be hard solder. And usually the lower then the quality of the melting point gets lower, the amount of silver gets lower as well. So always try and use a high melting point solder, like a hard solder. Sometimes that can't be helped, so you may have to use a medium or even an easy. In those cases, try and position the solder where you can't really see it, so it's not across the back of a joint of a ring. Also, if you try and polish it and make sure it's really highly polished, the solder should not notice. Sometimes then the solder will react with the air, with the sulfur, or even sometimes a solution that you put the ring in to clean it perhaps that would actually react with the solder joint itself. So providing you have a good quality solder from a reputable bullion dealer or tool supplier, it should not discolor. And if it does, perhaps go back to them and just say, why is the solder I bought from you discoloring? Because it shouldn't. All right, that's about it, I think. Yes, okay, next question then, please, Louise.
Okay, Janet is asking about fold forming. I have become fascinated by folding copper or silver. Have you any tips or ideas for projects and techniques? made a twisted and folded leaf pendant, and now I'm stuck for more ideas.
Okay, so bear with me. I'll bring the camera on me so it's not new. Just bear with me a second, chaps. I've got some some boxes in there. I just had a whole load of bags to fill. The problem with fold forming is that it doesn't really relate itself to pieces of jewellery. I know I'm talking, you can't see me, but I'm clambering around in a cupboard.
We can just hear you going crash bang wallet.
Pardon?
We can just hear you going crash bang
I
wallet.
know. All right. So we've got some fold formed bits here. It's a great technique. The one piece that actually isn't there that I was after. So look at those a moment. I've got so much in this cabinet. There are a pair of earrings that I made. Can I quickly find them? Yes, I can. Okay, so we've the fold form is a very sculptural type of technique, really, and it produces some of these gorgeous. Let me zoom in on this camera here so you can quickly see what's going on. You've got these gorgeous forms. They're very sculptural, as you can see, and they're quite large, so they do not really relate to small little pieces of jewellery, really. Although things like this, which is just simply a folded piece and then hammered, you could wear as, you know, as a brooch, a big brooch as it is. But what I did do, I did an M fold. Let me try and zoom in on this camera so we can see this. So this was one that we did. This was like an M fold, and that worked out quite nice. That was a piece of silver, and I think there should be a little post coming off here, so you can wear that then as an earring, and that's really nice and sculptural. Quite small. You can go smaller again if you wanted these into earrings. You could even join a wire from this side to this side perhaps, and you can hang that from a chain for a pendant, something like that. Yeah. So there are lots of ways that you can do it, but you know, some of them are very, you know, I really do love the look of these. They're very much very prehistoric looking almost, aren't they?
Steampunky as well. Somebody asked about steampunk last week, didn't they? And they made me think of
some really unusual pieces. Yeah, absolutely. But they are very. You can go very small. Let me go onto that camera there. You can have a better look at. You can go quite small with some of these folds, and they come all the way around, and you can really play around with them. There's like a leaf with like a double spine on that. You could add a bail on the top to hang it down. You could put a brooch fitting on the back. Likewise with this one here. So I think the trick is just to experiment with different ideas, folding it in half and hammering it, shaping the piece then perhaps before you actually hammer it will give you different results. That'll give you really weird different ideas of twists. Use it for practice and then think, well, how can I relate that into a smaller piece of jewellery using the same technique? Perhaps use a smaller piece of wire, pull these apart, make them into like a spiral. You can hang that down, make this a lot smaller. They could be small little spiral earrings. So although they are sculptural, try and reduce the size once you've experimented, and then you can work out how then they can be related to some jewellery. But just practice. Some of the folds are good, some of the folds are not suitable for jewellery, but just play around to your heart's content, and shaping the metals in a different way, making one end narrower, the middle fat, the end thin again. Before you start to hammer it, the metal will move in different ways as well. So experiment all this with some bits of copper, and then you can see how things are going to work. Scale it down to small little bits of silver, for instance, and you should be able to make up some really unusual and one-off pieces of jewellery. Really cool. So I'll push all them to one side a moment. There we go. All right then, Louise, do you have another question?
Okay. Elizabeth is asking, how can you stop flux from pitting?
Flux from pitting. I'm not quite sure how the flux would pit. When you paint, say you got some borax and you paint it onto a surface and then you warm it up, sometimes it'll bubble up and it'll leave some patches in the middle where there's no flux. Just go back with a paintbrush and just reapply it gently into those areas so you get a nice covering. Sometimes if you do overheat a flux, it will sort of boil and the properties will burn off just like solder, and sometimes you may be left with small little pits. But I wouldn't worry too much if you do get small little pits where you want to solder. Perhaps stop, add some more flux into those areas and then warm the piece back up so the water evaporates and then you're left with the actual powdered flux over it. So perhaps that would be the better way of doing it, but I'm not quite sure what you actually mean by my flux is pitting. I've never really seen it pit, but perhaps you can just write a bit more for me and I'll certainly, Louise will certainly have a look and answer the question a bit more in depth if I can understand exactly how it pits and when it's going to pit. Does it pit when you put the heat on it, when you're soldering, is there gaps and so forth? Give me a bit more information and I'll gladly help you, no worries. Next question, please, my dear.
Okay, Caroline is asking, what kind of mask is recommended to be worn when polishing with Tripoli and rouge?
Oh, you're into your PPE. What mask would a normal dust mask if you don't have extraction?
I would imagine, yeah. I mean, extraction's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
I'll put you on the spot now, haven't I?
You put me on the spot now. There's, I mean, if you go in with disposable masks, there's your basic, what in the clinical industry they call like a civilian mask, I suppose. But then the next step up from that is a fluid resistant mask, which I think any cloth mask or any disposable mask, once you breathe on it for a period of time, it compromises its use as a mask. So,
but then we've already discussed working with dust, aren't we? So perhaps if the mask becomes moist, I suppose it doesn't matter too much.
Because the dust, because you're not worried about the germs, you're just worried about the dust.
So the germs. We don't worry about germs, Louise.
Probably just a simple cone mask. I don't really know. I'm not qualified to answer that question, I don't think. But
I suppose any sort of mask is better than no mask at all, I suppose, isn't it? And as you say, extraction is the best way to get the dust away.
What are the dangers then of the Tripoli?
It's inhalation, isn't it? I suppose it sticks in your lungs, I suppose. I've always had extraction.
I personally, I would just say get the best mask you can afford.
Yeah.
Obviously, do research. Don't get ripped off. It's just
and I'm sure if
you get one set of lungs and
also one set of eyes. Yeah, absolutely.
Because presumably you could use it then because I always go on to you about your
the lost wax casting when you put the flask into the water.
Well, you do now, but
I have.
You're going to use it for that as well, aren't you? So there's loads of applications for it. So it's probably worth investing in something.
Absolutely.
Something reasonably
Perhaps, as you say, so you're not confused by so many different types out there. Perhaps go onto the Jewellery Tools website because they're going to have masks then that are going to be popular for the jewellery industry. I know you can get like the black ones that go over with the two little like filters and so forth.
I think that's like an FFP.
Is it? I don't know. And that would be good. But then also you have to then think about, is it convenient? Are you going to get too hot? Is it very hot where you are? Are you going to sweat or anything like that? But I think extraction is the best because the extraction will keep all your dust and all the polishing bits and pieces in one place that you can then send off to the refiners, rather than just let the dust floating around in the air. So even if you just had like a vacuum cleaner, a Henry on a homemade hood or a box on its side with a hole in the back with suction, anything like that to suck the dust away first so you can reclaim the dust, and then you can just have a light, what you call like a civilian mask, like the blue ones that go over with the pleats, is it? Something like that.
Lena's just suggested a 3M mask for both dust particles and fumes.
Okay.
So personally, I would always err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
You say too much is better than...
Yeah, too little, exactly. But yeah, I think extraction is your number one, and then after that, then buy the best that you can best that you can afford, but also depends upon what you're using and I suppose how you are set up, I suppose. So yeah, anything like that. But yeah, I think just look in the jewellery tool catalogues. I think that'd be the best thing to do, and see what they've got in there, and perhaps for the occasional little bit of polishing, or perhaps sat by here like a little mask. It's just the 3M ones that sort of just come over.
Like a cone mask?
Like a cone mask, you call them. Yeah, they'd be ideal, wouldn't they? They'd be quite light and not really too heavy if you have to keep it on for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But do that. Cool. Yeah, 3M mask, for dust and fumes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, nice question that was.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think we should actually look at something to do with health and safety, because we don't cover that enough, do we?
On, PPE and
health and safety in the workplace, protecting your hands, polishing, fumes, dust. Good idea.
Because a new person wouldn't, like I wouldn't have a clue what the hazards were.
No, exactly.
So
yeah, hazard within the workshop,
and it's so important.
Health and safety. Okay, that's another film.
Shall I write that one down?
Jot that one down as well, please, Louise. That's another one. That's another one too. Yeah, Madge uses a bandana when they polish. Yeah, but anything to cover your nose and your mouth. A guy came in today, didn't he, with the mask and into the shop, and he had it over his mouth. Yeah. And his nose was
complete waste of time.
A complete waste of time. Yeah, he was just Okay, next question, then, please, Louise. Sorry.
Okay, Kiri is asking if hallmarking is something I should be considering, even if my pieces are under the silver weight requirements.
It's nice. It's nice to have the assay office put your hallmark, put your initials on it, put your little initials with the shield around it, but it does add to the cost an awful lot. If you're producing 2 or 3 pieces, 5 or 6 pieces, anything sort of a lower quantity, you send them off to the assay office. You've got to send them up by special delivery. What's that? That's £8. They charge about £10 to post it back. That's £18 straight away you have to add on to the cost, obviously split amongst however many pieces you're sending up. They have to test it, they have to stamp it, they charge you according to how many stamps you want put on there. You can have a date letter, you can have all these sort of extra things put on. They charge you for every stamp. So all this gets added on to the cost. If we just send out one item, the postage back and hallmarking, I think it comes to about £30 just for one item. Obviously, you send up 2 items, that's £15 an item. Send up 3 items, it's £10 an item. So it brings the cost down. But for me, I would always try and keep my pieces under the legal weight, so you don't have to send them off. That's the main thing that I would always do. But then once you start producing pieces that happen to be over that weight, make sure then you do produce enough of those pieces, or your pieces are saleable enough to be able to send them off to be hallmarked, to warrant the extra cost, because it's going to have to add at least another, say, £5 onto your silver piece of earrings or your pendant and so forth, which really does add quite a bit of extra cost, especially if you're only charging £15–20 in the first place, and you've got to add on another £5 just for hallmarking, when you could have just kept it slightly under that weight. So think twice before you actually consider it, 'cause it adds a lot of cost, plus the initial cost of getting the punch made and registering whichever assay offices it is. So think about it, find out about the prices, but don't do it just yet. Hold back as long as possible, but it is a fantastic sight when you have the assay office mark upon a piece with your own initials. But if that's what you're after, you can ask somebody, or even ask the assay office, to make your own little punch with your initials, and you can stamp your own initials onto a piece if you want that as well. That's something that you can actually think about. So think about it, but don't do it just yet. Definitely don't do it just yet. Bear it in mind. Next question then, please, Louise.
Okay, Claire would like you to explain the benefits of fusing. What are the benefits of fusing, and why solder instead?
Okay, I think that if you are joining a ring shank, especially if you're using platinum, I know you may not be, but platinum, if you can fuse a ring shank with platinum, there's going to be no solder seams. So when you come to polish, there's no visible seam in the piece. You can fuse it so it all becomes one continuous piece of metal when you come to polish it. And this actually applies to silver and gold as well. When you come to polish a piece of jewellery, if you polish and the mop is going in line with the seam, because the solder is slightly softer than the rest of the parent metal around it, it'll polish out the solder. And even if you have the most closest of joints possible and your solder is being dragged out by the mops, you'll always see a slight groove. When you come to put clusters, settings on and extra bits and pieces onto a ring, sometimes fusing is not possible. If you're putting embellishments onto a piece, yeah, fusing is going to be possible. Sometimes though you cannot fuse and you have to use solder. But I think fusing is something that you have to get used to. You have to understand when the metal is going to melt. So should you fuse? You don't have to. If you have problems with solder joints on rings, especially like a wedding band or a ring, something like that, think about fusing so you don't get any solder grooves, solder marks, solder discoloration, but sometimes you can't help it and you have to use solder. So that would be my idea on fusing and soldering. And I must admit, fusing is an art. You just have to know exactly when your piece is just about to fuse any longer and it will melt. So it is an art. Practice beforehand before you start doing your own little pieces. But yeah, it is really exciting to see that flash and they actually fuse together. Okay, should we have a next question then, please? Louise?
Next question. Max is asking, any tips on becoming a jeweller?
It's a good question, but where do you start? That's the thing, isn't it? Tips on becoming a jeweller. Buy some tools, start watching YouTubes, take our courses when they go live in the spring, because we're going to be teaching you the techniques that you're going to need. And it is, I think, here we go. So we can touch on this, can't we? So when you want to become a goldsmith or a jeweler, you really do have to understand and know the techniques. Now, here on the YouTube channel that we have here, and also on At The Bench, which has got our bottom down here, online jewellery training website, we do concentrate on technique. It's all very well giving you a little project and say, here's a bangle to make, here's a ring to make, here's a spinner ring to make, yeah, and here's the instructions, and you make it, and it's brilliant, don't get me wrong, absolutely fantastic, you've made a piece. But do you know why? Do you know why you've done this? Do you know reason why you've soldered it that way? Do you know the reason why you've cut out a piece? And do you know why you've bent it this way? You need to know the techniques. You need to know the basics first. So perhaps then you get a project and you buy a course or buy a magazine and they say, you can make this ring. Great, no worries at all. You follow the instructions and you make the ring, and that's absolutely brilliant. But if I said to you, look, take it out of my pocket, whatever, and I say, here's a bracelet, right, make it with no instruction. Look at it, see how it's made. Look at this gorgeous solitaire ring, this cluster ring. Make it, look at it, see how is it made. You have to understand how the solder works, how the metal works, how do you shape the metal, how do you move the metal, what happens if I do this, what happens if I do that. I actually know all the techniques. So it's important to know the basics before you go any further. You need to know how to pierce, what blades to use, how to pierce correctly, accurately, so you don't have to go filing it or ruin a piece. You have to know how to solder. Why does a piece of metal melt? What melting point is silver solder, gold solder, platinum and so forth. You need to know the techniques before you go any further. So tips on becoming a jeweler: practice, practice, practice at the bench like this with the tools around you, seeing how a bit of metal works. You know, does this bit of metal bend? It doesn't. Why isn't it bending? It's most probably been work hardened. So what happens? You have to anneal it. So you have to know everything about the metal and so forth, and then you can go on, yes, Louise, to create.
And join your Facebook groups as well.
Absolutely,
there are so
yes.
many groups, and everybody is so helpful, aren't they? And ready to give advice. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're stuck on a particular project or stuck on a technique and that, you can ask questions in all the Facebook groups. But I think it is important, technique, Jewellery is technique driven. It's not necessarily fashion driven or the most saleable pieces. You have to know the techniques to make something before you can go on any further. So that would be number one tip, and that's what I'm going to give you, is know the techniques.
I think if you don't have the underpinning fundamentals, you're never going to be fully independent and use your creativity without having the basics, really. So that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's having a structured learning plan, I think, as well sometimes.
Yes, exactly. So then you know how something is made and you're not just simply shown how something is made.
Yeah.
Good.
It's like when you show me things and you've got to take it off me and you go, I'll do it, and I go, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to watch you do it. I want you to tell me how to do it so then I know how to do it.
Yes, exactly.
It's that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, good question. But again, we could talk for hours on that, is how to become a jeweller, hours and hours and hours. But practice, bench, tools, check out the catalogues, check out designs, check out Pinterest, see items, see how things are made, basically, and try and work out. And this is what I love on At The Bench. People will send us a picture. They want to know how something is made. Well, once you understand the basics, you can break that particular piece down in your head and work out step by step to actually finish it. It's like having a car. This brand new car, and someone gives you the car and they say, make another one. I don't know quite why I say the car, I don't know, I understand that. But if you know how to make a car or how to put an engine together because you've understood everything, you can do it. And that's what you need. If someone says, here's the instruction, like a Haynes manual, here's the engine, do it, and you're just trying to follow it and you don't understand how things go together. But if you know how, anyway, that's enough.
You need the fundamentals.
Fundamentals,
Fundamentals, yep.
Sorry, I'm getting a bit worked up here. Sorry, go on. Yes.
Okay. Kevin is asking, do silver charms sell well?
Silver charms, depends on what part of the country you're in, and also depends on what time of the year you're in, and perhaps what decade you're in, because charms were big in the 70s. They do come around, so you may find something that you can work as a charm that would perhaps hang as a pendant and not necessarily on a charm bracelet. Something like that, perhaps. Something that's very fashionable at the moment is things like rainbows because of the COVID crisis, that sort of thing. So perhaps if you can produce a charm that is topical to what is going on and what people are liking at the time, perhaps that would sell. But if you want to try and replicate the old hedgehogs in silver charms, or the bride and groom in the church that opens up, or the rowing boat, or the note in the miner's lamp, whatever, they're not very popular these days, are they?
They'll probably come back round though.
They will. That is, everywhere what goes around comes around, so they will. So,
I mean, charm bracelets just reinvent themselves, don't they?
Yeah, I think they do, yeah. And then some people then have a charm bracelet and they want to sell it because their auntie gave it to them and it's not really popular and so forth. So the charms sell well. Yes, depending on the charm, I think, would be the answer to that.
I have the really big, chunky 80s ones, I do. All dripping with all the weird stuff.
Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Next question then, please, Louise.
Okay.
Sorry, just go back to that. Jim Bettridge, just coming up onto the chat there. Inspiring Metalsmiths Jewellery, that's one of the groups on Facebook. So thank you for that. But there's loads. Just search jewellery groups on Facebook, and there's loads and loads of jewellery groups to join. Anyway, next question, please, Louise.
Do you use 3D design and printing? No. And what is your process? No. I can answer that one. Yeah, sorry, if anybody can help, JB.
Is it the program 3 Design?
Do you use 3D design and printing?
No. I wish I could. I wish I had the time to sit down to learn how to do it.
Well, you might now.
But no. It's no. It's getting more and more work. And I say that nicely because we're getting into more social, and the social media can really take over your life, can't it?
No, can't it just?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I don't. I would love to. If there was a program, there's loads of free programs that have been mentioned. That obviously you can cut your teeth on that and then go up to things like Rhino or Matrix or 3 Design. And there's loads of things out there for you to have a look at. Loads of things on the web. Just go searching one evening, and there's lots of information. But sorry, can't help you specifically on that one. But next question though, please, Louise.
Okay, Marge is asking how to solder beaded chain if using gemstone beads.
Ooh. Gemstones are usually holes in them, so you can gemstone with a hole Then you get a long wire, you pass the wire through, you make the loop on the end, or in fact you don't do it that way, you actually bend it downwards first like that. Yeah. And then as it comes around, then you just wrap it around, around and around. And likewise on this end, your wire comes out, you bend it down, it goes around, and then you bend it around, around, around. And that's the best way. I'm not really a beader, but you twist it round to secure it. If you just simply came along and just bent the wire and did that, and then put a jump ring through and so forth, this wire is going to come apart. But if you just bend it around and then just wrap it around the wire, snip it off on this end, wrap it round, and now you can attach this now with a jump ring onto whatever you wanted to do without fear of the wire coming undone. I think that'd be all right. Yep. Okay. Next question.
Livon is asking, any tips please for making a step bezel for a pear-shaped stone?
Any tips? Making a step bezel. So I presume you've made the bezel already, the actual strip, made the bezel strip. Not really, it's just need to get your half round pliers really, don't you? Yeah. Oh gosh, drawing something like this. Yes, you get your half round pliers and you just got to bend the metal. Just, I don't know, just bend it. I got no real tips. This part may be completely straight, and then just bend it round and just, this edge here would overlap. So perhaps when you get the stone and the stone goes in here, make sure that the wire just comes to the end of the stone. Then you can wrap it round, make sure it's not under tension, and then put the stone in place and just bring this wire around and then mark off and cut it, or leave this extended and solder, then cut it off afterwards. That would be your easiest, to get this section the right length first, then that piece then can go around that way. Yeah. There we go. I think it's just really practice, trial and error, just bend it. Try not to get the metal under too much tension, because when you bend it, it'll bend back open. But just ease it round. Perhaps bend it further than what it has to, because when it sort of springs back, it'll spring back into the right shape. But that's what I would do, is just cut that the right length. There we go. Next one. Oh, there. Kevin's saying the charms I make with Delft Motor comic cartoon figures. Yeah, exactly. There we go. So you catch on to an idea that sells, can't you? And then you can replicate them in whatever way you want to with your charms. Okay, next question then, please, Louise.
Okay, Max is asking, would working for a box store doing jewellery repair help to get into the jewellery business?
Working for a
box store.
Box store?
For doing jewellery repair. I'm guessing he means a retail outlet?
Or is it like something, yeah, but anything.
I don't know, yeah.
Sorry, so read that again. Sorry, Louise.
Would working for a box store doing jewellery repair help to get into the jewellery business?
Yeah, I think it would. And I think it really is important. Again, we were talking about techniques, weren't we? About how things go together and how things are soldered. And especially when it comes to repairs, when you look at a piece of jewellery and you've got to repair it, you've got to be sympathetic to repairing it. You have to look to see how the piece is made, or the piece has been repaired in the past. And this all boils down to this idea that Louise and myself are having regarding the courses. You need to know how things are made, how the techniques are done. If someone just gave you a project to make, you can't then go and make and repair jewellery, because you don't know how things have been put together. So yes, definitely do some repairs if you can get someone to teach you how to do repairs. Practice, again, it's practicing all the skills. It's practicing sawing, piercing, soldering, bending, forming, shaping, melting metal down, rolling metal down, drawing metal down, making things to actually repair the pieces. So yeah, I think that would be an ideal opportunity to cut your teeth on and to practice on before you go any further. So yeah, I would definitely say that. Absolutely. And also, if you're working on people's jewellery as well, it scares the living daylights out of you, because you can't replace it. So you've got to be really careful and be really accurate and know your techniques. Otherwise you'll melt the piece, which isn't a good idea. Next question, please.
Okay. Cold Steel Truth is asking, have you ever used peak polish for silver or copper?
Peak polish?
Peak polish.
No, I don't think I've ever used a peak polish. Is that a paste, perhaps? Do you think it's a paste?
It just says peak polish.
Do you want to have a look on there? See what peak polish is all about. Is it a peak polish? Oh yeah, peak polish from Screwfix.
Ooh.
Peak polish. Oh yeah. No, I haven't. I think it'd be ideal for
multi-purpose polish that cleans, polishes, restores and protects
38
over 38 different hard surfaces.
Very good. Is it authorised to be? Okay, it sounds good. I think it would be ideal on something like copper, perhaps. I don't really know. I haven't really tried it on gold or silver. I would be careful on silver in case there is something within it that would react with the silver. Maybe some sulfur or something like that would react with it. So practice, play around with a bit of scrap silver first. But yeah, give it a go. Why not? You may be able to teach us a few things.
I was going to say, you should order a little tube.
Yeah, order a tube. Where from?
Yeah.
Screwfix, Amazon?
Screwfix, Amazon.
Amazon, £4.10.
Yeah.
Citrus Cleaning, £3.58.
Yeah.
So yeah, cheap as chips. Yeah, let's all go and buy some peak polish and give it a go and see what the results are like, shall we? All right then, Louise, what's the next question, please?
Okay. Jeanette would like to know, do I need a bench polisher as well as a tumbler?
Okay, so we get into this. This is something that we get asked so many times. And I personally would say yes. If you can't afford a bench polisher, something like this, like a flex shaft, would be just as good. If you're producing a lot of pieces with a bench polisher, with the extraction would be absolutely gorgeous and brilliant, and that's what I would have. A tumbler is limited in what it can do. A tumbler literally burnishes the metal, whereas a bit more of a bench polisher would actually physically polish a piece. So before you put the pieces into the barrel polisher or the tumbler, it has to be of a really good finish before it goes in, and that will just burnish the surface and give it that little bit of an extra bit of a luster about it. I don't use a barrel polisher, even though I have several. I just use them for demonstration purposes. But if it was me, I'd always want to polish by hand, whether it's, as I said, using a little flex shaft, pendant motor like this, because you can get a variety of brushes on here. You can use this then for drilling and for grinding and so forth. I've always had a bench mounted polish motor from the day I first started, because I found that gave a much better finish, because you can use quite a satin mop as well to get a bit of a satin finish. You can use some of the, I got them here, these little bad boys here, which are these little wheels. And you can get larger versions of these to put upon the bench mounted polishing motor, so you can use it. It's far more versatile. If you're just starting out, have a little barrel polisher by all means, but I would seriously then think about progressing to a proper polishing machine, because you don't see the fine jewellers. You don't see the jewellers in, say, Mayfair or Garrett's or Cartier having a barrel polisher. They will always use a proper polishing machine, because that is the correct way of polishing. So if you want to do it properly, try and buy a bench mounted polishing motor over a barrel polisher. Myself and also the professionals will use those bench mounted polishers as well. May we have next question, please, Louise?
Yes. Leslie is a hobby jeweller with an Etsy shop. Can you give me some guidance on micromotor or pendant drill, please? I have saved up and not sure which one to go for.
All right then, micromotors are really good. They do tend to have their limitations as well. Personally, I would always go for a flex shaft, a pendant motor like this. This is a Fordham. This is a Fordham SR. Red label, because it's the 240 volt version. Someone asked me the other day, what is the difference between the red label and the blue label? Exactly the same machines. Fordham SR, red label, it's for the UK, or 240 volts. The blue label's 110 volts. Learn something new every day. I would always get something like this, like a Fordham. They're not cheap. They're about £250, I think, plus the VAT, but they are far more beneficial, because you can do so much with them, because you can change the hand pieces. You can get this quick release. You can get a Jacob's chuck, you can get a hammer action handpiece, and you can do so much more with that than what you can do with the micromotor, because it's a far more versatile piece of equipment in my eyes. So if you just want to do little, very small, little precise work, micromotor's fine. I'm getting a micromotor over the next few months, but that is purely because I want to start doing very, very delicate micro pave work and very small detailed work that way. But I would always go for a pendant motor, Fordham SR, or they do an LX, but that's a bit more of a lower speed but a higher torque. But a Fordham SR, a Seco, Milbro, anything like that, you won't have any problems with. This has got a reverse as well, which is quite handy if you're polishing. So instead of the polish coming around and going into your face, put it onto reverse, it goes the opposite way, and the dust goes away from your face. You don't have to breathe it in. But yeah, Fordham SR every single time. Louise, may we have another question, please?
Okay, 82 Home News. How would you solder 2 silver sheets 6 centimetres by 4.5 centimetre belt buckle? Sweat solder?
Definitely sweat solder. Yes, I would. I would heat up one piece, perhaps the smaller of the pieces, heat up the piece with some flux upon the one side, get some small little pallions of solder, dot them around on the piece, heat it up until the piece then the solder starts to melt. If you need to just move the solder around when it's molten, use a bit of a solder probe just to make sure it covers the surface. If you've used too much, you can always file it back and file it off. Then you put the 2 pieces together, make sure there's plenty of flux between them. With your usually the soldered piece on the top, you put plenty of flux on it, nice big broad flame, or put it up onto a tripod or a soldering rig with the flame underneath. Once the 2 pieces then get the correct temperature, the solder will melt, they'll just drop down on top of each other, and you get the most perfect solder joint all the way around. So sweat soldering would be the best method. What I would never ever do this. I would never, my Welsh accent's coming out now, boy. I would never, right? You've got the side of the plate here. The gentleman was talking about the steampunk ring last week. And so you're soldering another piece on the top like this. I would never, let's do this to make life a bit easier so we can actually understand what I'm doing. So I'm soldering this plate on top of here. I would never come along and put pallions of solder down here to try and get the solder to go underneath, because you're going to mark the metal. The solder is going to leave a little bit of like a shadow or a ghost on it. So what I would simply do is get my 2 pieces of solder sheet. There's all solder on the bottom of that one, and then you have your larger section piece of metal, for argument's sake, underneath, and just solder that on top of there, and the solder will just flow. The solder won't flow anywhere then all over the surface here, because the solder loves to stay between 2 pieces of metal. It won't flow. It likes to be attracted to that, the capillary action here, so the solder will never flow away from the joint. It'll always stay, and you'll get the fantastic solder joint. But yes, well done, Louise. Exactly right, sweat solder.
But that wasn't me asking, that was part of the question.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said, oh yeah, we'll sweat solder that. Well, sweat solder that. Well done, Louise. But I think you should know when to keep quiet. Yes. I got home and go, that's very good. Well done for answering that. Well done. All right, then. Next question, please.
Ashley is asking, my sister tech torch, like the one on your desk, doesn't retain the gas if it's not used for a day or so. Is this normal? No, it's not. I would always make sure that the this one's not going to focus that close. Let's go down a bit. Always make sure that, let's put my glasses on for this. Always make sure that the valve is nice and tight. If you look closely, I'm not quite sure how close this camera can get and stay in focus. There is this outer ring around here. There's a groove running across from one side to the other. What I would do is get a broad screwdriver and put it in there and try and tighten up the valve. Make sure the valve is tight. You obviously, when you push this down, a little bit of gas is going to come out.
but perhaps empty it first of all, put a flat bladed screwdriver across that groove and then tighten it, because that may be slightly loose, which is causing the gas to come out. Once that is nice and tight, refill it with gas and see how you go. If you find that it still happens to be losing gas, perhaps send it back to the company where you got it from, because they should always have like a year's guarantee, and explain the problem and they should replace it for you. If it's outside the guarantee, I always say then throw away the torch and buy yourself a new one, but some people don't. Some people will say, well, you can buy these valves, just replace the valves yourself. You can do if you want to, but I'd rather just throw it away and start afresh with a brand new piece rather than mess around, because if that leaks and that happens to light, that's underneath, and it's, well, I don't want to even think about it. So that's what I would do. Try and tighten it up. Doesn't work, send it back, or you can just send it back to the company in the first place if it's under guarantee, and definitely get a new one. Definitely. Next question, please, Louise. May I have a next question?
Tammy is asking, for an added sense of good craftsmanship, how would you make, using silver wire, a stamp, blank or charm to stamp the metal purity?
How would I make it?
Yeah.
How
would you make, using silver wire, a stamp, blank or charm to stamp the metal purity?
Okay, so we're not actually talking about how to make the stamp. We're actually talking about making a tag.
How would you make, using silver wire, a stamp, blank / charm? Okay,
so yeah, because I know things like Fiorelli and Clog Eye have
like a
little tag, and then on that tag then you can stamp 925 on it. There are companies in the US that will actually sell you little hallmarking tags. Excuse me. So that might be an idea. Or you could stamp them out yourself if you can. Let me just think. Yeah, why not just get like a little disc cutter, perhaps a very small disc cutter to stamp out small little round rings. Yeah. And then get us to get a punch. You can buy the punches 925 stamps from lots of places and just stamp your own 925 on it if you wanted to. But yeah, like a punch, you can even buy from America, and I think they do it in this country, they do oval punches as well nowadays, which is quite nice. I think even Cookson will actually sell you hallmarking tags as well. So as you say, you get a nice little disc, you put a little hole in the top of there, and that can be attached onto your chain, and you can perhaps put 925 on it if you wanted to, something like that. That'd be quite nice. But I know also if Jim is watching, Jim Lloyd is watching, if he's on at the moment, he bought some of these from America, and you buy the tags. I can't remember for life what it was called, but you buy the tags, and there is like a little tube like this, that there's a little hole in the top, and then you have a punch that has the 925 on it, or whatever it would be. There's a little slot then down here that you put the little tag in the slot. You bring this down on top and you just tap it with a hammer. And you can, I think they had Lolly J is their brand, and they had Lolly J put on there, and you put the disc in there, stamp that down, and then each one then gets the name. So I have to try and ask, if you just make a note, Louise, do you mind just Jim Lloyd? Did have a guest house in Windermere, but I think he sold it. He's moved down Dorset, Essex way, I think now. But yeah, that's something that in America, can't remember for the life of me. Somebody's on at the moment, and you can have a look for it. But something like this, you buy these little stamps, you can buy them in different colours, in silver, slots in, punch down, jobs are good. Nice. Best place to get your silver from, depending on what country you're in. If you're from the UK, Cookson, Betts Metals, Metal Law. If you're in the US, Stella, Rio Grande, any of the big boys. Or Bullion Bully if you're in Canada. Yes, next question please, Louise.
Okay, Joseph is asking, has enamel been cleaned, grinded after use of storage?
I would wash it, I think. Powdered enamel, I would wash it. Get a little bit of almost like a pestle and mortar bowl, and if you've got the powdered enamel, put it into that, or just wash it and then dry it out, and that will get rid of any impurities. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I anticipated too much. Sorry.
Yeah. I was told that it will form an oxide on the surface and will not look nice if not grinded and washed again.
I think that you can grind it again. Depends if it's been exposed to air, I suppose. Try it. That's the only way I think you're going to know for definite, is to get, if it's your red enamel or green enamel, get some, just wash it, try that. Some other of the same batch, grind it and try it. I think that's the only best way to know, I think, is just to practice and see which one it is. And I know certain enamels do oxidize with the air because of the colouring and so forth. But yeah, definitely wash it first and try it out. That would be the best thing to do. Yes, please. Next, Louise.
Okay, Anko would like to try...
Oh, hang on. We don't have any sound coming from you. You on? Is your microphone on? Oh, hang on a sec. Let's have a look. Bear with us. Have you want here?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. That's what happens. Okay, thank you for mentioning that. It's very kind of you. We'll get you back on now, Louise. You should be on. You on? Talk for me? Yes, you are.
Yes, Jerry, yes, we are planning on another 12-hour towards the end of the year.
Yes, November time, I think. I think November, we've got another 12-hour planned. We've got a few more suppliers on board. We've got some new suppliers. Yes, so we are planning on having another 12-hour session. When do we say? Beginning of November? Beginning of November, put it in your diaries. Beginning of November sometime. It's going to be the weekend again. Again, we're going to have another marathon 12-hour session. We're going to have more giveaways. Dustin are on board already. We're going to be giving away another rolling mill and plenty of tools, massive discounts. You get discounts from us that nobody else can give you, which is absolutely brilliant. So stick with us. You know, you get the best discounts. And I think there's going to be a few other new suppliers on board who were really mightily impressed with the 12-hour. We did enjoy it, didn't we? We absolutely loved it.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be such a long day. It's going to be horrendous. I'm going to be absolutely exhausted. I'm going to run out of steam. But really, really enjoyed it.
It was good, wasn't it?
It was so much fun.
It was good, and it was great. We had such a fantastic community on the chat, and we had a bit of fun, and we did silly things, but we raised a lot of money for UNICEF. So thank you all
Perhaps
very much.
we'll choose a different charity, I think it would have to be a global one again, because our followers are all over the world. So yeah,
exactly. So I think that'd be absolutely brilliant. So yes, another 12-hour session. Stay tuned for more information. We haven't got any more information yet, so we just have to stay tuned. Next question then, please, Louise.
Okay. Amco would like to try reticulate a 3mm straight silver wire, but is it possible to harden that without a kiln?
Wouldn't necessarily need to harden it, I don't think. Why would you need to harden it? If you have a strip and you have to bend it around and you can form it, you can hammer it with the metal, with the wooden hammer, rawhide mallet, and that would harden it. You can harden without a kiln, but you have to be very careful with the temperature. The kiln is the best thing, so you don't need to harden it. I wouldn't worry about it. Wouldn't worry. Pen, Louise? No?
No, I've got a pen.
Yeah, you have it. Okay. Next question then? Or you offering anything?
I was looking for the shell. Somebody just asked about the shell, and it reminded me about the 12-hour, and I think because we still have to do that. In typical Berry style, it's been what, 3 months.
We may get round to this. So here's our little shell.
No, I'm going to do that this week.
What?
I would write it in my diary, except I don't have it. But
put it in on a bit of paper to remember your diary next time.
No, I'm going to actually organise the competition for the shell.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to make it?
Make what?
The shell. Do you want to do it?
Me?
Yeah.
No, who's going to want that? No, we'll let you finish it off, I think.
That's very kind. Thank you so much. All right, then one more question, please. What is the time? It's 5 o'clock. I need time to shut the shop up. Have you ever received my snail mail from Florida desoldering? No. A guillotine cutter, John? Yes, it would. Perhaps I can try and organise a guillotine for everybody, as well as a rolling mill. I have to ask Matthew. Really nice, really nice. Okay, so you have a next question, please, Louise.
Okay, Yvonne is working on a cuff of 1mm copper-based and pierced pattern, 1mm new gold. I've placed bald hard solder inside the cutouts. Only half was flowed. After pickle and flux, will the remaining solder ever flow?
Yeah, it should do. Sometimes what you'll find is that once you've heated up the solder, if you have a piece of solder, you heat it up, it melts, it flows. If you have the same solder right next to it, what you'll find is that you can heat up this bit of solder, the new bit of solder, and that will flow before this one, the same melting point, has actually heated up and flowed as well, because once you've heated it up once, you'll find the temperature will rise to enable it before it flows again, if you know what I mean. So what you may find is that you do have to clean the surface really, really well, have to flux it, but what you may find is that you have to heat it up a little bit hotter than before for that solder to flow. And if it sounds like if it's a cuff, you're going to have quite a big torch to be able to heat up the whole thing. There's not much point trying to localize the heat in one particular area, hoping for that little area to melt, and you have the rest of the bangle here that's sucking out all the heat away from that area. So make sure you heat the whole piece, and then once the piece is nice and hot, bring the torch to the area where the solder is, but keep moving the torch back and forth, and you should find it will melt. There we go. I think we have another question.
Okay. Would you like another one?
I would love to. Yes, well, what other questions we just quickly come on here now? Need a rolling mill and a jewel tool. Perhaps I can get you a rolling mill.
Can I just ask a couple of questions about the...
Hang on, yes. What have I done? I'll put you to black. There we go. Okay.
About the focus group.
Okay, yeah.
So I think we said a week. Was it a week or 10 days?
10 days, wasn't it? Yeah.
10 days, so which is up...
We did it from Wednesday, didn't we? So it's the end of this week.
End of this week. So yeah, and then it's probably going to take a few days then to go through reading everybody's applications. So yeah, I'm guessing 2 weeks probably before we can announce, but it's going to close at the end. I can't remember whether we set a date or whether we just said 10 days.
Okay.
So it's not too late. In fact, it's not too late to apply.
So we're trying to get a focus group together to try out the new courses that we're going to be launching in a few months' time. So there's the link. Click on that link. We want some information from you if you're interested in joining a focus group to try out the courses that we're going to be. Why isn't the camera on me? That's better. We're trying to put together a focus group of about 10 people of various degrees of what's it called? Experience to try out the courses that we're going to be putting together to make sure they are absolutely perfect for when they launch in the early autumn. Just click on that link. Fill out the application, just simply asking you name, email address, and past experience. If you can make jewellery already, put down your social media links and that sort of thing. And then we'll just go through all the applications and we'll certainly have a look at them. Ends the end of this week. So it's the 3rd today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 8th or 9th of August. The applications will close. Joe, it was supposed to be in the summer house today, but we haven't got the summer house prepared because we were late back last night visiting friends and family, so we thought we'd do it back in this studio again. Yes, Louise.
We didn't get many questions either. We did get some which we're going to address, but there didn't seem to be a great demand. But we do want to answer the questions that have been asked.
Yes, yeah. So we're still gonna do the branding, the social media, and the e-commerce side of it. But we'll wait a few more weeks, I think, for that till we get a few more questions.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yes. Do we have another link for that people can fill out as well? Yeah. Should you want some information? And what the idea of today's question and answer was going to be simply going over questions that we've had on branding, promotions, e-commerce, social media, and so forth. And we were just going to chat, Louise and myself, from the summer house, weren't we? We were going to have a nice chilled out afternoon question and answer, but we didn't really have enough questions initially. Yes,
the questions we did have were really, really good questions. Though. They were brilliant questions, but I don't think they would have filled an hour. Yeah,
so we need to have more questions. So if you want any information, any questions answered, please click on that link. We will be doing it from our summer house when we get the summer house prepared and internet up to the summer house and things like that. So so please click on the links, fill out the information, and let us know. If you have one more question, what's the time now? It's 5 past 5. Let's have one more question, please, Louise.
Okay, sorry. Let's have a look. Lena is asking which gravers are most used when making a star stone setting, and what is the graver size in millimetre? Do I need to order?
Like a knife edge or onglet, which is okay. I'm sure this is like an onglet. So the face of the engraver looks like that, and you can also then get something like a knife edge that does that as well. So that's the best thing to do. When you get your, say, your onglet, it looks like this. When you get your knife edge, it looks like this. Like that. Okay, so that's how your engravers will look when they come. You have to cut them, you have to shape them into perhaps this sort of shape. Like that. When you have them, you don't have to, but that means you've only just got to sharpen this little area. And likewise with this, you just cut this down to here. Like that. And that will come down to there. I hope that makes sense, like that. So you've only got these areas to sharpen. I don't know what sizes. It depends upon the application that you've got. Obviously, the widths will change depending on the size. So if you want to really cut really wide cuts, you go for perhaps a bigger graver. You want to cut some very, very narrow little channels, you go for a smaller graver. So it's really entirely up to you, but those are the two most popular. I'm sure that's an onglet, and this is going to be a knife edge as well, or you could even get one that just simply comes down like that as well, and that will cut. But I think the broader ones like this is going to be best if you want to do a star cut up onto a gemstone and have these little cuts like this. Like that, yeah, upon the stone. Something like this one here, this one and this one, but not necessarily that one. And then you need to grind them into these shapes. So when you come to polish the tips, they don't take too much polishing. Oh yeah, and those have got to be angled at about 60 degrees, 45 degrees at an angle as well, not straight up. Yeah, so the angle on the front would be like that. That is your cutting face by there. How's that? I think that's about it. That's the hour. The hours do go by very, very quickly. John Cogswell book, very good book regarding stone setting. Definitely by John Cogswell's book. Really, really good book. I love a good book. I haven't bought a good book in ages. So I have to look out. There is a guy I'm looking at for a book. Yes. Sorry, I do apologise for it being Monday.
I think it's Wednesday. You've only got 2 days of work out of me now.
So we are, yeah, so yes. Oh, Mark's on. Good of you to see you, Mark. Good of you, get back onto the camera. Good of you to see you, Mark. Hope all is well in your recovery. Okay, I think that's about it. Anything you really wanted to say, Louise? Any last minute things that people want to ask about?
I don't think so. I think it was just a focus group, wasn't it? We've had the questions about that, so that's a priority now for this week.
Yes.
And also the shell. The
shell, must get the shell finished. So I'm going to
organise the shell, focus group, yeah.
That's it.
That is about it, really, isn't it?
Cool,
yeah.
Excellent. Well, again.
Oh, and do you know what? Nobody's mentioned the druzy this week.
Oh, because I haven't had a chance. This is what I stated right at the beginning. I haven't done anything at all since Wednesday. Yeah, that's the reason why I said it right at the beginning, so no one could go, Andrew, how's the druzy? How's the druzy coming along? All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it. We're going to be doing all this again next Monday at 4 o'clock here in the UK. Julian's on. Oh, bless her. But you're so patient, Julian. Thank you so much for being patient. How did the new employee go together? I snapped at her. I was a bit short, wasn't I? I was a little bit short this morning. I did snap at you. But it was the computer was going so slow this morning. It's so slow, and I was trying to get something done, and you were asking me, and I go, oh no. But you've done very well. You've done very well. First day for, yes. Congratulations. Well done, Libby. Well done. Well done on your first day. You're a dab hand at this now, but yes. Excellent. All right. So, about grey area, please, if you possible, answer my question about grey area and polishing. It's most probably fire scale. Look up fire scale on the internet and most probably that is your answer. Check out fire scale, but I haven't got time to answer it now because I'm going home now. It's 5 o'clock here in the UK and it's time to go. That's it. Okay, everyone, say bye, Louise.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, and we do have a bit of an announcement, but it won't be today.
Ah.
What?
What's the announcement?
It's the thing that what I was showing you on my phone. That's and we're only teasing, but we do have a bit of an announcement that's not going to happen now. It's in production for later on in the year. Keep an eye out. She's laughing her head up, laughing your head up now. So the announcement that I was going to make months ago is finally come around. We finally got things together in place. So I'm not going to announce it now. What I want you to do. What's the matter?
You're just lucky Natalia isn't here. She won't be putting up with this.
What I'm going to ask you guys to do, if you're watching it now, keep an eye on all the socials tomorrow. Keep an eye on Instagram @_the_bench_UK. Keep an eye out on Instagram. Keep an eye out on Facebook on Andrew Berry. Keep an eye out on Facebook on At The Bench. Keep an eye out. May even actually put it on YouTube. So just keep an eye out on. She knows. Keep an eye out on all the socials tomorrow. We got about a 20-25 second video, and hopefully that will be self-explanatory about what we are going to be doing. Are we popping the cork, Tom? I'm not quite sure whether we're going to pop in the cork today.
Are you going on Strictly?
With my hips. I don't think so. Not
so
at
today
all.
you only announced that you have an announcement. Yeah, this is life with Andrew Berry. Yeah. Welcome to my world.
I'm announcing the announcement, but I'm announcing the announcement. So you have to watch social medias tomorrow and Facebook and so forth, and you'll understand and you'll see what it is all about. Yep. You're not going to say any more, are you? It's fun.
I'm not allowed, am I?
No, you're not. No, yeah. You signed a form that says I'm not allowed. No, you haven't actually. I wouldn't do that to you. Wouldn't do that to you. So today you only announced that you're announcing. Yes, you're right. Cliffhanger. Everybody, take care. Join
You're
us.
really not going to announce it?
No, I'm not. How can I? I can't announce it when it's on my phone, can I? Because I need to like plug it in and plug the camera into the computer. Join us tomorrow on social media and hopefully you'll all understand what the hype is all about and you'll understand. Everybody take care. Thank you for joining us today. We will see you again next Monday at 4 p.m. But as I said, keep an eye on all social medias tomorrow. When you do see it, you're going to be so excited and I want you to share it. I want to see how many times you can share what we're going to announce tomorrow. I want you to share the posts on Facebook. I want to share the posts on Instagram. I want to share it. I want to see you all share what we're going to do. It's going to be absolutely epic. Never been done before. It's a first that I possibly know about within the jewellery world. So please share it with everybody.
So excited.
So excited. We lose so excited. Take care. We will see you all next week. But until then, we're going to go and we're going to see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.